Tariffs being implemented, new jobs numbers, and rising housing costs. The head of the Greater Boston Chamber of Commerce is here this morning to talk about it all. It's time to go on the record. Let's go.
From WCVB Channel 5, the inside word from Washington to Beacon Hill. Today's newsmakers are going on the record.
Hello and welcome to OTR, everyone. I'm Ed Hart.
And I'm Charmin Sacchetti, and joining us at the table is Jim Rooney, the president and CEO of the Greater Boston Chamber of Commerce. Thanks for being here.
Hi, Charmin.
Great to see you.
Good to see
Great
you.
to see you. So let's begin with tariffs.
Sure.
Everybody's talking about it, so let's talk about it. Taxes went into effect on dozens of countries last week. The president is proposing 100% tariffs on computer chips. The White House is confident that the tariffs will mean that the country can jumpstart hiring and bring back manufacturing, but hiring has begun to stall and inflationary pressures are continuing. So how do you see this playing out in the long term?
Yeah, generally speaking, the impact of the tariff policies of the Trump administration have created a great deal of uncertainty in the business community, and that uncertainty has led to some paralysis in terms of making investments in expansion, equipment, that sort of thing. Also in hiring, people are playing the wait and see game. Where is this going to go? A lot of concern about tariffs are a form of taxation. Consumers and businesses do pay them. That will trickle into the economy over time in various ways. Some businesses have gone and created inventory in anticipation of tariffs going up. So you don't see it right away, but as we get into the Christmas shopping season, as some of these tariffs take hold, you'll see them and they'll trickle throughout the economy in ways you might not expect, Ed. So for example, the cost of automobile parts and replacement parts will go up. You go and have a fender bender, you go to your auto body shop. That means the cost of your insurance is going to go up because they're the ones paying the bill for those auto parts now. So it's going to trickle throughout the economy going forward.
And have you seen warning signs for the economy here in Massachusetts specifically?
Specifically related to the tariffs?
Yeah.
You mean? Well, the warning signs are really about that paralysis that I talked about, that you see companies that say, we were going to do this. Hasbro was going to move to Boston, and they openly said that given the uncertainty around the tariffs, we're not going to make the move at that point. A lot of that...
So things are kind of on hold?
A lot of it on hold. People are waiting and seeing. And while all the deals are getting made, and we all know Trump's a deal maker, and we all know some of this is set up to make a deal, our three biggest trading partners do not have deals: Canada, Mexico, and China. Those are the ones that most of us trade with, not just here in Massachusetts, but throughout the country.
The White House has said repeatedly that they believe that this will bring manufacturing back to the states. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? What are businesses telling you about that?
Well, that's one of the effective uses of tariffs, if you can, repatriate, if that's the word, some manufacturing. There's some things that we can never compete in terms of labor rates. I mean, we cannot force different countries to pay different labor rates. There's certain products, bananas and avocados, that we just can't produce. There's certain things that we just can't do. And there's a long time before some of these factories can get built. It's 5-7 years before some of these things can get built. So what is going to happen over that time frame? It's a long-term play to try to get some of that activity, but I don't think we're going to see as much as we're hearing.
Well, let's talk about the high cost of living in Massachusetts. That's the number one issue, really, for many people. Rent control is even a proposed ballot question now at this point. How has this impacted hiring for businesses?
Yeah, it's top of the list, and it doesn't matter what industry people are in. They find housing costs to be a big impediment to attracting talent to Massachusetts. And in fact, we did a survey of young professionals in Massachusetts that said that about 25% of them don't see themselves here in 5 years because of the cost of housing.
So they graduate college
and they go.
25%.
25% said they don't see themselves here. When I think of housing and housing policy, I'm reminded of that Churchill quote, and I'll paraphrase that, Americans always get it right after they've tried everything else. We're trying a lot of things that have a history of failing. We're doing things like rent control, which started in the 40s, and bad things happened.
You don't think that's a good idea?
It's a terrible idea. I mean, owners don't invest in the property. The non-rent control prices go up. people stay in those units. They don't turn over. They just get occupied and people stay. The history of tariffs, if you just read the data, rent control is just so bad, and then you've got inclusionary zoning policies, that you've got all these policies that fit that quote perfectly. We're trying everything when we should just try to incentivize the free market to build more housing, find ways to do that.
So let's talk about federal funding cuts and their impact on medical research. The chamber has revived a coalition of chambers from across the country, red and blue states, concerned about what those cuts will actually mean in the long run. So what is the message that you're hoping to send to Washington?
Yeah, research matters a lot to America. I mean, we're the most innovative country in the world. So many things have happened, not just in the United States, but specifically here in Massachusetts, driven by some form of research funding. In Massachusetts, it happens to be medical life sciences, NIH funding. But across the country, there's defense industry, there's energy research, there's also technology research that's going on in other states. Right now, Massachusetts, as a blue state, is not the most favored nation down in Washington. So our coalition is 72 chambers in 33, I think, states, including Alabama, which does a lot of defense industry and space, NASA research. They're part of the coalition. And our message is being respectful to the science, but saying that, you know, these have local economic impact. This is jobs. There's about 500,000 jobs created by NIH funding that we rely on. If that money's not there, those jobs go away, and all of the secondary jobs go away too in support of them. So we brought together a coalition knowing that politically we're not in the strongest case to align ourselves with red states, purple states, blue states. We've done letters. We're doing a fly-in in September to meet with congressional leaders, to meet with administration officials, and make the business case about research funding.
How do you think Harvard is handling the pressure from the Trump administration?
I'm glad to see, as an alum, that they're standing up. I think many of us are feeling like that, you know, they had to take a stand. You know, I think of two institutions on this planet that think in centuries, the Vatican and Harvard. And, you know, they can play the long game, and a lot of other institutions can't play the long game. So they're doing it in the spirit of a deal. They're smart. They'll make a deal of some kind. I mean, we're hearing that they're close. And hopefully that'll unleash the research funds that have been held back, because that matters a lot. Science just can't be stopped. If you're doing research, it's not like, okay, where did we leave off 3-4 months ago? You have to start all over.
The $400 million that the governor has put toward medical research in colleges in the state, is that enough?
Well,
compared
it's
to
helpful.
what
it's
you
helpful.
get in terms of federal funding?
It's up against a $2 billion shortfall. No state is going to be able to make something up. We're the only state doing something like that. So I would say it's a good move to do that, and there'll be applications and there'll be prioritization of things like who needs the money right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I applaud it. I was at the press conference for that, and I think that you know, I applaud the governor for saying, look, we're going to try to, you know, fill some gaps here.
Conversation continues after the break. Stay with us.